Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to the Steelers Week 13 preview show. I'm your host, Jim Sella, here with Jay Dash. The Pittsburgh Steelers take on the New York Giants in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are 6-5, scraping by for a playoff berth. They are technically behind Baltimore right now because Baltimore owns the tiebreaker head-to-head matchup. But Pittsburgh, if they can win out and beat Baltimore, will have the division. The Giants, sitting at 8-3, are actually a little better off than Pittsburgh are right now, although they are still trailing the Cowboys for that division lead.
Yeah, they're better off in terms of probably going to make the playoffs, but 2 games back in the division, the Steelers have a better shot to win their division, obviously. But the New York Giants are balling right now. They are on a 6-game win streak, and within that time, they have 2 wins against the AFC North. That is the Bengals. They beat 21-20, and that was in New York. And they went to Cleveland and won 27-13 last week.
Giants defense has only given up 19.4 points per game. That's 6th in the league. And they're only giving up 89.1 rushing yards. That's 5th in the league. That's beast. You do that, and you're going to be able to win some football games.
Yeah, 24 points or less in all but one game this season. The one game was in Week 3 versus the Washington Redskins when they lost 29-27. But other than that, I mean, during this 6-game win streak, it's been 23 points or less in every game.
The Steelers' defense is only giving up 20.2 points per game, but the offense is only scoring 24.2. Clearly, the offense is the bigger disappointment at this moment in the season.
Yeah, I've been someone that actually has defended this defense since we started this show. Over the past 2 years, I know they've been up and down and they get beat in the passing game, but they do their job. Last season, they set the offense up in great field position many times, set them up for touchdowns. The season before, I mean, they kept teams out of the end zone. This season, it actually looked worse to me for a little bit. They started hot, I think, 3 or 4 games into the season, allowing 16 points or less. But then they got injured a little bit, and they just looked bad. And I think the thing that was different is over the past 2 seasons, when I defended them, they always were able to stop the run. And at a point this season, with all the injuries and everything, they were just getting gashed by the run. And it just looked horrible. But in the end, the D-backs look a little bit better this season. And overall, they've been keeping teams out of the end zone like usual. And like I said, 16 points or less, they've done that many times this season. And the offense really has let them down at many points this year, and I'm not happy with this offense at all. I know they had some problems. Martavis Bryant went down at the beginning of the season with a suspension. Le'Veon Bell was suspended early on. Big Ben was hurt again. But you have to overcome these things, and this offense is never where we really wanted it to be, and it always seems like the defense is just doing enough to do their job and give this offense a chance to win. And it's more often than not the offense letting me down.
It was nice to see him score 28 points on the road last week. They're at home this week. Big Ben steps up in big games. Him and Eli were drafted in the same round, same draft class, same everything. Do you think we're going to hear a lot of comparisons on game day in the pregame shows?
Yeah, well, you know, they always do the comparisons with those guys. And who was the other one? Phillip Rivers?
Yeah.
It was actually Eli Manning got drafted by San Diego, and he complained, and then they had to make a trade for Phillip Rivers for the next pick or whatever.
Yeah, he forced a trade because he said he didn't want to play for San Diego.
Yeah, and through all of that, the best quarterback was sitting there for the Steelers to take at, number 11?
Yep. I heard Cowher liked Phillip Rivers better, but the Rooneys made him take Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, they didn't make him. The draft made him. It's not like Rivers was there, obviously. But I don't know. I'm glad they didn't take Rivers. I'd hate to see that whining face every week.
I know. I hate that dude and his giant forehead.
I don't necessarily hate him. He puts up big yardage and everything. But like I said in one of our segments last week, the dude finds ways to lose. Although he screwed me on my pick of the week this week.
Because he's a douche, and he has like 15 kids.
But you look at the New York Giants, their run game, I'm not going to say is non-existent, but it's not that great. Rashad Jennings is leading his team with 115 carries and 395 yards rushing, just 2 TDs on the season. Now, Orleans Darkwa also has 2 rushing touchdowns to lead the team, along with Rashad Jennings. So their run game hasn't looked that great, although despite last week, Rashad Jennings didn't look that great. Prior to that, the 2 previous weeks, he started to get going a little bit. But the way the Steelers' defense has looked over the 2 weeks, I think they're going to be able to shut down Rashad Jennings in this run game. Now, there's Paul Perkins as well, who gets a little bit of playing time, and he's used a little bit more in the passing game than Rashad Jennings is. Actually, Jennings does have a few more catches this season, but he also has a lot more playing time than Paul Perkins. And Paul Perkins is the guy that the Giants are a little bit excited about. He's not a guy that's going to be playing every down or anything, but a guy that can make some plays in the open space. But really, the one guy you got to look out for on his team is Odell Beckham Jr., and he's a little bit banged up right now, so I'd like to see them be physical with him.
If the Giants can shut down the Steelers' run game, are the Steelers gonna struggle to score points? They've been reliant on that run game the last 2 weeks.
I don't necessarily think so. At home, Big Ben looks a lot better. I think he's finally going to get back on track. You remember when he came back from injury, he looked bad versus Baltimore. And really, he hasn't had huge numbers since returning. They really didn't need it against Cleveland and Indianapolis. So I think this is the week Big Ben puts up the big numbers again.
Love that Big Ben. 2 Super Bowls for him, 2 for Eli. Who's going to be the first one to get 3?
Well, it looks like at this point the Giants have a better shot. Sounds crazy, I know.
That?
I think the Steelers have a better team, but right now, I mean, you got an 8-3 New York Giants team who can win on the road, while there's a Pittsburgh Steelers team that, yeah, they beat the Colts last week on the road, but again, a primetime game. Their only 2 road wins came in primetime. Can they win? I guess playoffs prime time, right? All playoff games are prime time, so
believe that.
Maybe you can win on the road in the playoffs. I don't know. I trust the Giants more this season than I trust the Steelers, man.
The only thing I guess I could see this, if the Patriots lose in the playoffs and the Steelers don't have to go through the Patriots, I think that the Steelers have the second best chance in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. Just because if their offense does get hot, I mean, they do have the tools and their defense is playing good enough. And in the NFC, I feel like there's a lot of good teams. You got Dallas sitting above the Giants. You still got Seattle playing good football, though they only scored 5 points last week. The Saints are actually a scary team to me in a 1-game playoff. You never know what Saints team you're going to get. Are they going to come up and put up mad points on you and let you put points on them? Who knows? So I just think it might be a tougher road to the Super Bowl through the NFC than it necessarily is through the AFC.
I have to see Pittsburgh start playing better on the road. Like I mentioned, yeah, they beat the Indianapolis Colts pretty handily last week. But still, you take away that first half, and they didn't do anything really offensively in that second half. I need to see a complete game out of this Pittsburgh Steelers team on the road.
I think this is probably going to be one of the best matchups of the week. What do you think in all of the NFL?
Yeah, this is a big matchup. 2 teams fighting for a playoff spot. Obviously, like I said, the Steelers have a better shot to win their division, but the Giants look like a more complete playoff team at this point to me. I want to see Pittsburgh put it all together in this game, and I actually think Pittsburgh can put it together and beat this Giants team and make it a little bit closer.
I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch. I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. I'm going to give it a 50-50 as far, like, if I'm putting out a line on this game, I bet you Pittsburgh ends up favored, but I would make it at even odds because I think both teams do kind of the same thing. The Giants, I mean, the Steelers run the ball better than the Giants, but the Steelers and the Giants both shut down the run and are a little susceptible to the pass, and they both have wide receivers that can make big plays, and they both have quarterbacks that know how to play football. So I think these teams are kind of a mirror image of each other.
Yeah, I think the Giants have a little bit deeper of receivers. Like you mentioned, the Steelers are still kind of looking for that number 2 guy who they can trust, while Sterling Shepard, a guy they drafted at the beginning of the season, obviously, has stepped in and played a pretty big role for this team and has looked good. I mean, he had 3 big games to start the season, and then he fell off for about a month, but he stepped it back up, has 44 receptions for 476 yards and found the end zone 5 times already this season. So he looks like a very good number 2 receiver, and I think he can eventually be a number 1 receiver when they think it's time to move on from Odell Beckham Jr. And then Victor Cruz has stepped it back up again this season after being injured for a few years. He was supposed to come back last season and be a part of this offense, and he really never got it going. But this year, he's starting to look like he did prior to him getting hurt. Now, he's never going to be that same exact guy. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is closer to what Victor Cruz was before Cruz got hurt than Cruz is now. But he is stepping into a role where you can see him as a number 2, number 3 receiver again. And with those 3 guys, I like their receiving core out there, where I can't look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and just name 3 guys that I trust like that.
I can name AB and LB.
Like I said, I trust Eli Rogers. I still want to see more consistency out of him, more of a consistent connection from Ben to him weekly. But outside of that, I mean, I really lost trust in Sammy Coates at this point. I don't know if he's, like I said it last week too, is he ever going to have a catch again? He didn't have a catch this past week. So I don't know about Sammy Coates. I know he got a thing going on with his hand, whatever. He looked very good to start the season. But, I mean, teams kind of figured out that he's the deep guy, and they're staying behind him. I mean, he's not getting as open as he was earlier in the season, and his hand has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, it looks like we were both right about Coates. You said he was going to be better coming into the year. I was a little doubtful. He blew up at the beginning of the year, and now he's garbage. Let's hope he can put together.
Well, I think you did say he'd have 1,000 yards this year. Do you still believe that?
It's going to be hard unless he blows up in 5 straight games again.
It's possible. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we've seen it in that playoff game last year, too. He can be more than a deep threat. But you take away that deep part of his game, and it's a lot different because he doesn't have the hands to consistently make plays underneath.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just not probable. How many yards is Le'Veon Bell going to get in this game? Rushing.
All right, we'll make that one of the choices for you. Over or under 90 yards?
I think it's going to be under 90 yards rushing. I think the Steelers are going to have to utilize Bell in the passing game more to be able to get him to be effective. Although, like you said in the recap, the Steelers O-line played very well against the Colts. I just read a stat earlier today that Le'Veon Bell's only been stuffed 6 times behind the line of scrimmage all season. That's the best percentage in all of football. Cam Newton is right behind Le'Veon. It's something like 5%, somewhere around there. But to be successful against this Giants defense, it's tough to run the football. You're better off trying to pass the ball. And I think Le'Veon coming out of the backfield or even just lining up in the slot or outside, they move him all the way to the right side of the formation sometimes. I think he'll have a better chance to make an impact that way.
Eli Manning has 20 passing touchdowns on the season. They only have 5 rushing touchdowns as a team. So it looks like if they're going to find the end zone, it's going to be through the air. So Eli Manning, over or under 3 touchdown passes?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to say over. I think he's going to have 4. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and whoever wins is going to have to score 30 points or more. I know that both defenses are playing good right now, but both these offenses know how to get it going, and both of them have big play wide receivers. So I think whoever wins this game again is going to have to score over 30, and I think the Giants get 4 touchdowns out of Eli. Probably 2 of them to Beckham because I'm playing him in fantasy. So you might expect 5 touchdowns for Odell Beckham.
Eli Manning's only been sacked 13 times this season, so they've been doing a great job of keeping the defense off of him. Over or under 2.5?
Sacks for the Steelers?
Yes. They look very good over the past 2 weeks. Again, they go through these stretches where they look very good, and it seems like they're going to start sending 4 or 5 most times. Is it going to continue, or is that Giants offensive line going to continue what they've been doing all season long?
Yeah, I'm going to say under. I think the Steelers can get pressure on Eli, but I don't think they're going to get to him to sack him very many times. He gets rid of the ball quickly, and also that offensive line is playing a lot better. And the Steelers' pass rush, although it's playing better, isn't great this year. So I think all that mixed together equals the Steelers almost getting to him. They might be able to get to him enough to disrupt him. You know, they don't actually have to sack him. They could just get in his face and force him to move out of the pocket or throw off his back foot or, even tip a pass. So I think they're going to harass him. I just don't necessarily think they're actually going to get there more than 2 times.
So what's your key to victory?
That's a tough one, too. I think the key to victory is consistency from this offense and a wide receiver to step up outside of AB. Anybody. It doesn't have to be a wide receiver. It could be Ladarius Green. It could be, hell, David Johnson if he figures out how to catch a pass. I don't really care who catches a pass. I just think other people need to step up. Eli Rogers, like you said, get him more involved in the game. Only 2 targets last week. Why isn't this guy getting 6 to 8 targets a game? It just doesn't make any sense. So maybe my key to victory is fire Todd Haley, even though we know that'll never happen.
Well, you mentioned Eli Manning could throw 4 touchdown passes this week. I don't know if he's going to do that or not, but I'm going to say Big Ben got to come out and look like the Big Ben prior to the injury. He's had some big games this season, none really since that injury, and he might have returned a little bit too fast, I don't know, or whatever, but I think he's going to come out and have a big game, and he needs to. I think this is one of those games that we've been doing it all season. We're high on the defense, and then they look terrible, and everybody says the defense is garbage. And then they come back and have a couple good games. I think this is a game where we might not be that happy with the defense by the end of the game, but I think the offense, especially Big Ben, got to come out there and make some big plays, have over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, don't turn the ball over in this game. And I think that's a way you're going to come up on top.
I think you're right when you say Ben may have come back a little too early, and that's probably why you're seeing the heavy workload for Le'Veon Bell. He had, 30-something touches on Sunday against Cleveland, and then touched the ball like 25 or 26 times again 3 days later or 4 days later on Thanksgiving. So, they're really feeding this guy the rock. What's Roethlisberger have over the last 2 games? Less than 50 pass attempts, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think they seen in that Baltimore game, and he probably felt it too and told him, hey, the knee doesn't feel 100% quite yet. So I think maybe that's why you've seen some run-heavy play calling.
So what's the final score going to be, and who wins?
Ooh, man. I think this is a game where both offenses blow up, and I'm going to go way out on a limb here and say Pittsburgh wins the game 42-38.
Damn, that is high scoring.
Believe it.
Did you see that Pitt game this week?
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
That's high scoring.
It's garbage football.
I think it's going to be high scoring as well. I think Big Ben and Eli Manning are going to be passing a lot in this game. And like I said, Big Ben got to have a solid game, not turn the ball over too much, and find the end zone multiple times in this game. So I'm not going to say it's that close. I keep picking games within 3 points, and they really never play a game within 3 points. So I'm going to say 33-26.
33-26. That's still high scoring.
Yeah, it's pretty high scoring.
Yeah, what is the over-under? Do you know?
I can look it up.
Did you see Jason Pierre-Paul? I'm pretty sure he won Defensive Player of the Week last week. Dude's only got like 3 fingers on one hand, and he can still ball.
Yeah, I seen that, man. He's not that bad of a player. Still, he's always been a good player. I don't see what 2 fingers is going to hurt, man.
Odell Beckham says here his thumb injury helps him catch better.
He's just lying.
Yeah. He says, I think in a sense it doesn't really hurt me because now I have to focus more on catching the ball. I have to really lock in the focus of where you're placing your hands. I've kind of noticed it actually almost makes me be able to catch better, minus the pain of what it is. It allows me to lock into another focus. So instead of locking into the focus of being a whiny crybaby, he is focusing on doing his job.
We have the over-under at 49.5, and Pittsburgh is -6.
That's ridiculous. Giants all day, baby, on that. Tease it up.
We got one at -6.5 here.
It's crazy. No way the Steelers should be. I love them. There's just no way they should be favored by that much over a team
Listen,
like the
Easy and I
Giants.
were talking about it during the Colts game, actually, when the Steelers looked like they were definitely going to win that game. He said, what's the line next week? And he said -3 to Pittsburgh. And I said, nah, maybe a little bit more, -4 I'd go. But -6? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I honestly think it should just be even. I think both these teams play very good football, and they play a very similar style of football. They have a good passing attack. The Steelers run the ball better, but the Giants stop the run better than the Steelers, and they both are kind of shaky against the pass at times.
I will say Giants are a little bit better on the road, too. But Pittsburgh at home, man, they're hard to beat.
Believe it.
And like I mentioned before, the Steelers really haven't been playing too many close games this season.
Yeah, well, let's hope as long as they win, I don't care if it's close or a blowout. Whatever gets them a victory.
Please believe.
Fans, questions or comments, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. You'll find this episode there. You can put your official prediction in the comment section. Keep coming back to YouTube. You can comment there if you want. You can comment everywhere. Twitter, double Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Blast it out.
Ball.